We are very fortunate that Catherine Bessay, a prominent senior position holder in FAO, she is visiting Pakistan. We are fortunate that she is with us.
It's my fourth visit to Pakistan because we've implemented an evaluation of the national food control system. It's very difficult to summarize such hard work into one sentence, but I will nevertheless try. And I'd like you to pardon my metaphor. Inspection activities are very important, and inspection activities are carried out throughout the country, in particular through the food authorities. So conventional approach generally looks at the final product, take a sample on this final product, and checks if it's meeting the requirements that are set up in the standard. I think people will continue to develop those activities at farm, at market level, etc. in the meanwhile, and that's perfectly fine.
We are very fortunate that Catherine Bessay, a prominent senior position holder in FAO, she is visiting Pakistan. She was here on European Union activity yesterday, and where she presented the Pakistani case in a very comprehensive and good way. We are fortunate that she is with us, and we will like to, with her experience of more than 30 years in FAO on food safety issues and related and developing food systems across the world in various countries where FAO is, which are member to the FAO. She is here in Pakistan. It is her fourth visit, and we would like to get some information and knowledge and prospects about the food quality and safety system and how the things are moving, and what is her vision in harmonizing the Pakistani system into an integrated international based system. So this is, with these remarks, I will request Catherine to come up. Would you, to start, could you briefly describe your overall vision for Pakistan food control system? Where does a fully functional international aligned system look like in this context? This is from where we will take a start and we'll move forward.
Thank you very much. So as you've said, it's my fourth visit to Pakistan because we've implemented an evaluation of the national food control system. That evaluation was undertaken using the Codex Alimentarius guidelines, which are the benchmark at international level, which is taken by the World Trade Organization to actually set the rules for food safety. So we've worked together with the competent authorities, with the private sector, with the consumers, with academia, research institutions, and so on for a year. And with that, we've been able to build together a complete assessment. It's very difficult to summarize such hard work into one sentence, but I will nevertheless try. And I'd like you to pardon my metaphor. I would say that Pakistan has many of the necessary bricks or building blocks. We might, at the moment, lack the cement that transform those bricks or those blocks into a wall that defends the health of the consumers, but also protects the private sector in its efforts to deliver safe food and play by the rules, which means, fair conditions for marketing products. In a bit more of technical details, I would say that among the key elements that could be strengthened, I would say an overarching policy framework, so food safety policy that would really bring all the stakeholders under the same roof to discuss and agree about the objectives that the nations wants to give itself to protect the health of consumers and ensure fair practices in the food trade. That should also be supported by one single national food law, which again brings everybody to play by the same rules. Then, of course, everybody has, each competent authority has its own mandate and implements those activities as per its, mandate again. But the rules would need to be harmonized. We have harmonized standards through PSQCA, which is a very good thing. But it's not just about standards. It's also about the main overarching principles. Like, for example, food safety is the primary responsibility of food business operators. That's a core principle that at the moment we would need to establish at national level. I would say using risk analysis as the paradigm to anchor decision making and, for example, also resource allocation. And I would also say develop a complementary approach between, let's say, compliance checking and building partnerships with the private sector. So I think those are three main areas around which a lot of activities could be further developed.
What do you think that, as you said, one of the things you said is that we have blocks available across the countries, but there is not a coordinated system to interlink those blocks to make a comprehensive and a strong wall, as you said. So will you like to elaborate some of this area? How can we, interlink the blocks together? For instance, laboratories, there are so many laboratories that have equipment. We have manpower, but they are working in different domains and all that. How can we interlink this at the moment, a sort of complex structure into a integrated and strong unit?
So first and foremost, it's not just a problem in Pakistan. It's a problem everywhere because, yes, food safety is, contrary to other domains, very much at a crossroads between different disciplines. We need, the inputs of plant health specialists for veterinarians. We need food safety specialists. We need food authorities. We need the trade departments. We need our colleagues from the public health. So it's always a question of bringing different authorities. Even in countries where it is said that there is a single food safety authority, you will always have other competent authorities to bring on board because they will always have a complementary element to bring into the picture. So that being said, I think one issue in Pakistan, which I think and I hope is starting to be addressed, is the reinforcing, let's say, a nucleus within the federal level to help all the competent authorities across the country, and in particular in the provinces, to act according to the same principles. Because one issue that we noted is that everybody is really doing their work to the best of their abilities and investing a lot of energy. The whole point is that everybody does things according to slightly different ways. The problem is then that the data that is generated by those different authorities through their work programs it is not possible to integrate all that data because it's generated in different formats according to different protocols and for different reasons. So at the end of the day, it's very difficult to have one picture at national level of where the main risks are, what are those risks, and decide collectively about the different strategies that could come complementary to each other's to address those issues. So I think definitely having a stronger coordination mechanism And that's really up to the national stakeholders to decide what works best. But it can take, of course, different forms. It can be an authority, it can be a committee, it can be whatever. The whole point is that people understand why they have to come together. And I think, so it's not just a question of the vehicle, what I would call the committee or the authority, it's also about the content. And the content is provided by programs. And those programs need to bring everybody around the table with a common goal. So that everybody understands that they are part of a common picture and that it's not a question of somebody giving me orders, but it's about agreeing all together about how to do things in a complementary manner.
You mean there should be certain protocols for all the operations that are conducted to manage the food safety issues for national locals as well as for the trade. Is that right?
Yes. For example, let me take a concrete example. Inspection activities are very important, and inspection activities are carried out throughout the country, in particular through the food authorities, and that's very well. I think we all agree that there is a need to migrate from compliance-based approaches towards more risk-based approaches. How do you do that? By using what we call a risk categorization approach. It means that you classify the food businesses according to the risks that they are posing. For this, what we need is that at national level, we all agree on the parameters that we are going to use in that analysis, so that a food business operator is analyzed in the same manner in Punjab than it would be in Balochistan. Then, of course, the Punjab authorities or the Balochistan authorities carry out the inspection programs, but they have to do it, let's say, using the same rationale, because then it allows the activity reports that are generated in one province and in another province to be analyzed at the same level, at the federal level, and so that we can put together those different reports and have a matrix of those different risks.
I think it's a very good explanation, and but for the audience, I would like to ask you that what is the difference between a conventional inspection and a risk-based assessment? That is, I understand, being a technical person, I understand the importance of HACCP and good agriculture practices and all that, and a farm to fork approach. But would you like to elaborate these things?
Oh, I will try. So a conventional approach, and it's a shift that has been made in all countries. So conventional approach generally looks at the final product, take a sample on this final product, and checks if it's meeting the requirements that are set up in the standard. So it relies a lot on end product inspection. End product inspection basically tells me if the food is okay or not. It tells me if that food that I have in my hand today is okay. The big shift that was done some years ago, and using, for example, what you have mentioned, the HACCP approach, is to analyze the process by which every day, at every moment of the day, there is a system in place that constantly monitors the conditions of the production, anticipates the risks that can be associated with ingredients
at all levels.
So it means incoming ingredients, and that means, for example, primary production consideration in the agricultural sector. So, for example, if you are transforming fruits and vegetables, that in your incoming raw materials, which are the fruits and vegetables, you test the pesticide residues, because otherwise, once they are there, they will remain in the transformation chain. And it's not by taking a sample at the end of the process that you will be able to prevent that. So HACCP system is a system that prevents risks entering into the food chain, that sets up a system that constantly monitors the controls that are being done. So risk-based inspection is analyzing how strong that prevention system is rather than looking at the product. And then there is a second level in the risk-based inspection. It's not just what the inspector does in the factory, so that is, for example, auditing the HACCP system. It is also how the food authority has programmed the use of its inspectors across the whole set of food business operators, and if the food authority is using its resources to the best of its abilities and where the major risks are. And that's what I was mentioning before, risk categorization. Some food businesses are handling products that are much more sensitive than others, or they are actually producing a major volume of food, or they are targeting very vulnerable consumers. Those are examples of parameters that you can use in deciding that some businesses will be prioritized for inspection with regards to others who are maybe, delivering products that are much more sensitive on a much more restricted basis, or that have always complied every time they have been inspected, everything was always fine. So these are examples of parameters, and if I only have 10 inspectors to cover a city of, let's say, 200,000 people, with 5,000 small food businesses, how shall I use my 10 inspectors where the risks are major? So that is the second level that you have to insert into the design of risk-based inspection.
Yes, I think this is understandable, and this leads to another question, and this relates to from where should we start with, knowing since you have been visiting here in Pakistan, from where should we start, from the bottom end, from the farmer level, or we start from the export or market level? So there is, a sort of confusion, and this needs to be resolved. Will you technically answer this?
I think it's probably, I would not see, it's not a simple answer, because there are many actors, many people are involved at the moment in, or many organizations trying to resolve issues. And I think it's more like everybody understanding in which direction they should work together. So I think one action, for example, at primary production level is not excluding at all another type of action which would be more at policy setting level. What I really think is urgent is the need for greater coordination of all those initiatives, and certainly discussing, leading a process of policy making helps, and doesn't prevent anybody to continue developing those actions in the field, but it progressively aligns the mindset. The national food law is also really important because it allows to bring everybody under a same legal roof and to know by which rule we all have to play.
So the first thing is that developing a proper system and a policy for undertaking the tasks, that is the prerequisite. And once the guidelines have been developed, then you move on implementing it at all level, maybe at farm level or market level or whatsoever it is. That makes, I think, this is the conclusion what I drew from. Is that right?
I think people will continue to develop those activities at farm, at market level, etc. in the meanwhile, and that's perfectly fine. They should not be stopped of developing good efforts, but definitely it is one action that needs to be pushed urgently.
So, as you said earlier, that bringing these available resources together and integrating them in a comprehensive way to make a network of food control system in Pakistan, that probably is one of the prerequisites.
So it's interesting to reflect to the different needs and to the different analytical volumes. In all that, and we need to also differentiate different types of analytical needs. If it's routine analysis, if it's confirmation analysis, if it's analysis related to a trade dispute. For, let's say, what is the purpose of the sampling? Is that to issue an international certificate, or is that to confirm the observation of bad hygienic practices within a food business? Understand why you are sampling. What's the purpose of the sampling? Because then that determines a whole series of other parameters and needs. Finally, also consider analytical services as a service, and so that you as an authority can rely to different service providers depending on the type of your needs. All that brings us back to what I was saying initially. If we are using a little bit more of a risk-based approach, we might also have some allocation of resources that are done based on risks. And that will help, because I do realize that all this requires a lot of funds, and as we were saying before, we need to sustain investments. So where are those investments most needed? Where are they most useful? What is exactly the type of analytical service I need?
Another area where I would like to give your comments, probably this may be the last question or comment, is the capacity building. Now, capacity building is required at all levels, for laboratory staff, for inspection staff, for the farmers, for the processors, and this is vital, particularly if you are exporting any product and you want to do it as per international standards. So PHDEC has been working hard for the last few years in capacity building of extension workers, of farmers, and similarly other stakeholders, so that we may be able to come up with better results, which resulted last year. We reduced our interceptions due to MRL as well as aflatoxin by 50% in Europe only. So I think that role of capacity building is very important, and at the same time there should be a continuous exercise and effort to continue such activities. Would you like to comment on the need of capacity building?
Certainly, it's, I think, at all levels, and each one of us benefits from upgrading and keeping up to date with the latest developments, from top management to field inspectors or farmers, etc.
So I wish not only FAO the best of luck and success in future to come up with a concrete system and to help strengthen the organization and institution and the system in Pakistan for an effective food control system. So I appreciate and acknowledge your presence here and participation of FAO, and I wish you the very best. Thank you, Catherine, for being with us, and I hope and pray that we continue our interaction. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.